We'll go ahead and just do this one. And I click import. There it is. I'm going to click it to enlarge it. Go over to develop mode. Okay. The lighting's pretty good. You can see there's just a little bit of few blemishes on here. I'm going to pull up. Okay, over here on the top, you have all these settings. One is crop overlay, where you can adjust the crop. You can twist it around so it'll stay in the same dimensions. Right now I'm going to go to the one beside of that. It says spot removal. I'm going to select that. Adjust the size so it's a little bit smaller so it doesn't look as noticeable. Okay, it's the size I want. If I want to clone like a background, I can do that. But right now I'm working on the face, so I want to make sure it's on heal instead of clone. So move it to heal. Click the spot that I want to move and then move over to a clear spot. Same over here. Little blemish right there. Little blemish right there. The other one is a mole. We'll leave that. There's a couple on her chin. So just click it and then move the other circle to a more clear area that you want to clone. There we go. There you go. A few of the blemishes are gone. Zoom out. Still the same image. Go to him. Remove a few of his blemishes. There we go. Whoa. Okay, next thing I want to do, I want to try to smooth out their skin before I do any editing to exposure and everything. Okay, I've downloaded some other brushes that I paid for, but I'm going to scroll down to ones that Lightroom already has on it usually. Okay, there's one towards the bottom. It says soften skin. Let me walk you through that again. I forgot to mention how I got there. On the top where you have crop overlay and spot removal, I'm going to go to the far right where it shows an adjustment brush. Click the adjustment brush so it opens up. Then it will say effect. Hit the drop down menu right there. Then scroll, look towards the bottom and select soften skin. Sometimes this is a little too heavy for my liking. It makes it look a little too fake. So I moved the clarity up just a little bit. I'm going to do around 80 right now. The sharpness, make sure it's up just a little so it doesn't look too blown out and too fake. I'm going to put it on about 20 for sharpness. Okay, I'm going to go over here to Navigator so I don't use my brush tool yet. Zoom in on Chelsea's face. And right here you can see fit, feel, 1:1 ratio, 1:3 ratio. I'm going to click the drag down box and choose 1:2 ratio so that I can have her whole face in there. Over here on the right again where I have the brush open, I'm going to increase the size of my brush just a little bit and then start painting on her face. You can tell that it's darkening it a little bit and I don't want that. So I'm going to come over to brightness, up it just a little bit so it matches the skin around it pretty good. Yeah, there we go. Just paint on that. I'll smooth out some of the edges. It kind of diminishes the pores a little bit so it gives the more perfect skin look. I don't want to do it too much though. Don't want to get rid of some of the details. Okay. So we got her skin smoothed out a little bit. Still a little too much for my liking. Too much. There we go. Okay, pull back. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and try to start adjusting the exposure and everything. So I got rid of the brush tool by just clicking it again, and it brought me back to my basic panel. There's a little, looks like a medicine thing, but it's actually it says white balance selector. So I'm going to select that. If you don't like the colors that were picked up and the kind of color scheme of the picture, you can just go over different areas of the image, and it'll show up in your navigator box what it's going to look like afterwards. I don't want to make her look too green or too fake or anything. Really, it's looking like the color that it's in right now is probably the best choice. So I want to leave it like that. Okay, I want to go over to temp to warm it up just a little bit. Scroll it away from the blue and towards the greenish, burgundy-ish color, or tannish color, I mean. Up it just a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to do the fill light. That gets rid of some of those shadows in there and brightens it just a little bit. Go up to exposure and up that just a little bit to warm up the photo. And if it looks like it's getting rid of a lot of the details, which is not too bad right now, you can go to recover and up that. And that'll bring in some of the whites and the details of the shirt that were overexposed. Okay, going to go down to brightness. It's automatically set on mine to be plus 50. But I'm just going to up it a little bit, add some light to it. You can contrast just a little bit. If the details are a little hazy, not as clear as you'd like them, there's a clarity bar right here. You can move it down, and that makes it look really super duper fake and totally photoshopped. So I move it up just a little bit. It kind of darkens the lines of and their eyelashes and their eyebrows. Just kind of brings out the details a little bit more. Okay, now this is the part I like. I get in. I'm going to zoom in on her face. I'm going to go back up to ratio because I really want to zoom in on her eyes. I'm going to choose a 1:1 ratio. Scroll up to where her eyes are right there. If I want to darken her eyelashes, say, I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to try to burn or darken. That puts the exposure down a little bit. I don't want it too much though. I'm going to put it on -10 and then move the brightness down to -5. And I'm going to change my brush size so that it gets smaller. I'm just going to start painting around her eyelashes. It just darkens them just a little bit. Defines her eyes a little more. Okay, I got it on a little area that I don't want. Instead of having to undo all of that, I'm going to move down here, right above where I changed my brush size, and I'm going to choose Erase. I'm going to go around with the areas that I did not mean to darken, because I darkened some of her under eye circles, and we don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, now Lightroom comes with a brush on here called, I'm going to go to my scroll box again. It's called Iris Enhance. It's a good way to get their eyes to lighten up a little bit, but it looks a little too fake with their high settings. So I move down the exposure, move it to about positive 0.39, and we can fix that later. Saturation, I don't want to saturate it a whole lot, but I want to add a little color, so I want to do around 20, 24. Clarity is too much because that darkens the eyes too much, so I'm going to move that down to 39-ish. Contrast up to 20 or 15, somewhere around there. Okay. Make my brush size a little smaller because we're working with just the iris here and around the pupils. I just start painting on that area just a little bit, just to show the area that I'm covering right now. Let me do something drastic. Okay, see, that's the area that I'm covering. We don't want it too bright. Contrast a little more. Up the saturation a little more to your liking. You can go full blown out, but eventually it starts looking a little crazy. And I'm going to bring it down. Okay, her lips were a little bit dry in this picture, but I'm going to darken and make it kind of look like she has a lip gloss. We go down to brushes. And one that you probably have will say burn or darken, and I'll use that again. Darken it probably down to just -10. Up the saturation a little bit, and then you can go to color here on that same area down towards the bottom of the list. Click the little thing that looks like an envelope by the side. I'm going to choose kind of a really pasty light pink. Just add a little more color. Up the size just a little. Paint that on. It looks a little too drastic and too dark and pinky for me right now, but I'll edit that in just a minute. Alright, up the collar a little bit. Bring the clarity down. It kind of smooths out the lips a little bit there. Good. Okay, let's do a quick comparison. If you want to see before and after shots in Lightroom, down here where you chose to enlarge the picture to fill the screen, right beside of it you can choose that right there, and it just shows that's what it looked like before. This is what it looks like now. Still feeling like it's a little too blown out there, so I'm going to up the contrast, up the blacks just a little bit, and recover some. Okay, you can tell that we've lightened the eyes right there a little bit and just smoothed out the skin. Not too much so it looks fake though, hopefully. Scroll back down. Just that. If it's really noisy and you can see all kinds of graininess in the picture, I probably just got my face in that. I'm just trying to make sure it's still recording. I'm going to scroll down here on leave the basic bar and scroll down here. And there's a detail thing. It may not be enlarged on your screen, but you can open that detail by clicking the triangle. Zoom out. You want to leave it a little sharpened so it doesn't look too smooth. But then go down to noise reduction. And you can up that a little bit. Let me zoom in so we can see the difference maybe. Okay. This is without any noise reduction at all. You can see just a little bit of graininess around the skin. I'm going to up it as far as it'll go. And that really just kind of smooths out all the details. That can be okay for certain things. But if you're wanting the details in their faces to stay pretty clear, probably just want to go up to around 20-ish and leave it there. I'll zoom out. I'm going to go down here. Add a slight, I guess it's called vignetting. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Whatever. It's that little darkened area around the circle. You can put it down a whole lot. That begins to look a little too heavy for me. I'm going to bring it up a little. You can change the midpoint if you want it to just kind of darken the corners. If you want it to go a little more close to their face. I'm going to stay probably about midpoint there. Roundness, if you want the corners to be a little more squared off, you can really bring out the roundness so it fades into them nicely. And to feather it out, if you want it to have a really strong, you can tell where you put the darkness, bring it down to 0 and you can see a full-on circle. But I like to feather it out pretty good, put it up around 70, so it's just a gradual change. Alright.